Hello everyone, welcome back to the video tutorial series for Salesforce LWC component. This is session 2, and in this session I'm going to explain you how do we create a basic Lightning Web component, how do we create a Lightning Web component using Visual Studio Code, and how do we deploy that Lightning component on Salesforce and how to test it. So in the previous session, in session 1, I explained that how do we download and install Visual Studio Code, how do we set up Salesforce CLI. So we'll be using both the functionalities in order to create and deploy LWC component. So let me switch to Visual Studio Code. So that's the Visual Studio Code. And as you can see, this Visual Studio Code is a blank code, blank Visual Studio. We haven't started any project right now. So I'm going to create a project from the beginning. And in order to create a new project in Visual Studio Code for Salesforce, before that, we need to add some extensions. So as you can see, Visual Studio Code on left side, you can see there's an option called extensions, and we need to download and install Salesforce extensions pack. So you have to check that Salesforce extension pack has been installed. So Salesforce package, as you can see, Salesforce extension pack, this package has already installed. And if you see in this package, we used to have we used to have an option to create Apex classes. Basically, this extension pack helps to create Apex classes. It helps to create Aura component. It helps to create Visual Force pages. It helps to create SOQL, SLDS, and Lightning Web component. So in my case, I have already installed this. If you'll be doing this very first time, you have to install the Salesforce extension pack, and then only you can begin your uh, then only begin creating a Lightning Web component. So the very first step is in order to create a Lightning component. So the very first step is that we click on the gear icon. You can see there's a gear icon called manage. Either you can click on this gear icon, manage, or else you can say view command palette, and you will get a list of commands. So basically, we will be using these commands in order to create Lightning Web components. So the first I'm going to do is I just type it here SFDX and create project with manifest. So when I select this option, create project with manifest, so I just click this option, create project with manifest, and you have to wait for a couple of minutes because it will be activating the extensions. And once the extensions will be activated, it will recall the libraries, and then we are good to go to create a new project. As you can see, what type of project you would like to create. So I would like to create a standard project template. That's the default one. I will be using the standard one. We have to specify the project name. So I'll give the project name as, let's say, LWC test LWC, or I'll just write here AI Tech 1 LWC. Okay, that's the name of my project. Hit enter. It will ask you the location where you would like to set up this project. So I would like to set up this project in my, what I have done is I will be setting it up on my location. So I just create a new folder and name as AI Tech 1, or let's say uh, new LWC projects. So you have to create a folder. Now, this folder you can create before you start creating a LWC project, or you can create it now. So now what we have done, we have created a project, and from here onwards, from next time, we'll be using the same project folder in order to create and add our Lightning Web component. So as you can see, the new project has been created, and we are ready to create LWC component. But before creating an LWC component, as you can see, I'm getting on the fourth app main default, I'm getting few directories like application, Aura, classes, layouts, LWC, permission sets, static resources, tabs, triggers. Now I would like to create LWC component. But when I expand this LWC component, it is blank. And even if I right click on this, I'm not getting any option to create LWC component. The reason you will not be getting an option to create a LWC component is that first of all, we have to establish a connection with our Salesforce org. Because only after we establish a connection, this Visual Studio Code will allow you to create a LWC component under this LWC directory. So how do we establish a connection? We click here, manage, click on command palette, and I'm going to connect. So I just write SFDX. See, if you're not getting an option for authorization, so wait for a few minutes because it would be setting up the environment for you. So that depends on that depends. Okay, that will depend. So we have to wait for a few minutes. So now you can see I am getting an option here in order to authorize an org. And in order to do that, I click on this gear icon. In command palette, I'm getting an option called authorize an org. So I click on authorize an org. And when I click on authorize an org, it will be using the login.salesforce.com URL. Click on this. This is the alias. So do we want to give an alias for the org? So I don't want to give any alias. I would like to use the default one. I click enter, and it will launch the web portal for you in order to provide the credentials, in order to give the credentials to sign in. So in order to do this, let me close all the other windows which I have opened previously in our first session. So I'll just enter the username and the password. So basically, I'm providing my credentials to log in into Salesforce. And once I provide my credentials, you can see Salesforce will authorize, the authorization will begin, and you see it's waiting for authorization. And I got a confirmation message here, authorize and all successfully done. That means the connectivity between or the authorization between the Visual Studio Code and Salesforce has been established successfully. And now this Visual Studio Code will be authorized to create and deploy LWC component or other components onto Salesforce platform. So as you can see, authentication successful. And what I'll do, I again log in. So basically, I just wanted to log in because we would like to check that. So I just log in successful. And you can see the authorization is successful now. And now we are good to go. And you can just check here, that's the same org instance we connected successfully. And if you want to see the details, we can just expand it and we can see we'll be getting the informations like the authorization is successfully authorized with the org ID and the instance URL login.salesforce.com. So basically, the authorization is successful and it ended with the exit code 0. So before we begin the actual development, we always have to check whether the authorization is successful or not, and then only we'll begin. So now it's time to create a Lightning Web component. So how do we create a Lightning Web component? In order to do that, I right click on LWC and say create Lightning Web component. And when I click on create Lightning Web component, it will ask me the name of the component name. So let me give the name as LWC test 1. That's the name of, or I'll just say LWC CMP1. That's the name of my component. Hit enter. And I would like to create this LWC component, register under this LWC directory, enter, and you can see the LWC component gets created. So my component is ready. And now further, I can deploy this component onto Salesforce. So my component is ready now. So let's see how do we create a Lightning Web component. And whenever you create a Lightning Web component, you can see 3 files will be added here. LWC cmp1.html, that's the HTML file. Then we have JS file and then meta.xml file. And each file, they have their own uses. The first is HTML file. This is the place where we'll be going to design our component, and uh, this follows the HTML basically HTML format. Like we have to will be going to add the tags. Second is the JS. This is a JavaScript file. It's considered to be as the client side JavaScript. And the third one we have is the meta XML. So this file is responsible to decide that on what location we would like to display our component, LWC component, or whether our component will be visible or to the users or not. So this file will decide that. So let's suppose right now I'm just creating a simple component. I just create a division, or I can do one thing. I can directly use here card, lightning card. To know more about these LWC component tags, I'll share a link in the description from where we can get from where you can get all the information about the Lightning component libraries. And here I just write heading 1, hello, welcome to my first LWC component. So I created a simple component, and right now we are not customizing the JS. I'll skip the JS right now, but in the meta XML, we have to make this component available for the user. So therefore, instead of false, I set this to true. And the next is we have to set the target. Targets is basically that decide that on what locations your LWC is going to be deployed. So how do we add it? Targets, and within target, and my target is I would like to see these are the locations where you can add your Lightning Web component. So I just want to make I want my Lightning Web component to be available for the app page, target, Lightning homepage, target, Lightning tab. So I just added 3 locations right now. Then I click on save all. And finally, we will be going to deploy this Lightning Web component on Salesforce. So how do we do that? Right click. So I right click on LWC because we have we added the changes in the LWC only. We have done the changes here only. So I right click on LWC and click on deploy source to org. So deployment is begin, and once it deploys successfully, it will deploy the 3 files: HTML files, JS file, and meta.xml file. You can see JS, HTML, and meta.xml file has been deployed successfully on the Salesforce platform. So now let's verify. And in order to verify this, I switch to my Salesforce platform. And in this Salesforce platform, I'll just check Lightning component. So under setup, I just write Lightning component. I just wanted to check the Lightning component has been deployed here successfully or not. And the component name is LWC CMP1. So let's check it out. And as you can see, this component has been deployed successfully, LWC CMP1. This component deployed successfully. Now, how do we preview this component? In order to preview this component, let me open an application. Let me open sales application. That's a standard application. And in order to preview this component, I'm going to add this component on a home page of sales application. So how do I do that? For this, I will take help of Lightning App Builder. So I click on Setup, Edit Page. And on left side, we can see the list of the components. These are standard components, but we'll be looking for our custom component. That's a custom LWC component. And drag and drop it here on the desired location. Then click on Save. And we have to activate it if it is required. So I'm going to activate. So it's already activated. And then finally, I click on Back. And you can see the Lightning Web component, our first Lightning Web component deployed successfully here. That's the way we create a Lightning Web component and deploy that Lightning Web component on our Salesforce org. That's all in today's session. In the next session, we'll be going to discuss the variables and the other functionalities of LWC components. Don't forget to subscribe our channel. Thanks for watching. Have a nice